Nature is a big influence. It's creation, so when you create, for me it's the most natural thing to look at nature. There's so incredibly much to explore, it's never ending. I wonder how it cannot be a big influence because it's the most beautiful thing that there is. So I look a lot to nature and also to the processes within nature. And even when you look at technology today, often technology is inspired by natural processes as well. So it's one big loop, and it's really inspiring to be in that loop. I grew up in a small village called Wamel. It's in the middle of Holland. I wasn't really into fashion at a young age because I didn't have television or magazines. When I went to high school, it was in a city, so I started to become more aware of my identity, and I started making my own clothes. And that's really the point where I noticed that I really liked working with my hands, and I started collecting materials, even not knowing what to do with them. When I was 18, I went to the art academy for 4 years and I studied fashion. I did some internships at Alexander McQueen and Claudia Jongstra that both teach me a lot of things. Then I did a few shows in London and then in Paris in 2011, and that's where I think a lot of things changed. I started joining the haute couture calendar and focusing even more on the craftsmanship and the technology. I think that was really a turning point for my work. I think being in Amsterdam is a good thing for me, as I'm a quite introvert person. So being in my atelier near the water here, it's freedom for me. I really realized that fashion was the perfect blend for me between my dancing background, where it's really focusing on the body, and the working with my hands. I think that's still a thing for me that is visible in my work today, where it's really about movement and energy all the time. A lot of designers have a muse, I don't have one, but I think the body in itself is my muse. In each collection, the end result, the show and the clothes, I make for other people. But the whole process of getting there, like the 3 or 4 months of hard work, I really do it for myself. So the whole journey towards a collection is really a journey to get better in my work. When I started making clothes and designing, I did everything by hand. At a certain point, I really got stuck in the sense that I felt for certain ideas I had to go to technology. At this stage, it's much more merging together, where I try to combine the craftsmanship and the technology within the same garment. Materials are really always the starting point in each collection. Of course, I have an idea and a direction that I want to go to, but in the end, the materials are always deciding. So it's a big research towards materials, and I often feel attracted to those materials that I don't know how to handle in the first place. So the collections really have a mix between more classic materials like a silk or a wool or Japanese fabrics, together with fabrics that are really outside of fashion. Like in the collection you can see the chemical crows where I used umbrella pins, or refinery smoke where we made weaves of metal wire. It's a really beautiful process where chaos is really part of the design. In different collections I have tried working with materials that really have a big chaos factor, because as a designer you really intend to always have the full control. That's really part of the design process. But if you work with a material that creates chaos, you have to work with it. And that friction is really important for me. Every collection has a really different journey. And that's also what I try to keep. Like I don't try to get one rhythm or one system in my work, because I always try to have a balance between my intuition and my head. Like a lot of designers draw something and then they make it, but for me it has to go both ways. Sometimes I draw something which can create a garment, sometimes it really comes from the concept. And then I go find a collaborator that I can realize it with. Sometimes I collaborate with someone, and a collaborator can have a big influence in the way I see things or in the way I go through my process. They can really inspire me to work in a different way. So I'm always open when I work with an artist or an architect to also go into his way of working. That's where collaboration can be a really, really nice tool to open up your skills, to open up your mind. And Philip Beasley is an example of someone that I work with for a longer period, and Jolan van der Wiel as well. And especially after knowing each other a little bit longer, really nice surprises can come up, because you're sort of letting go politeness and all the things that you have in the beginning, trying to get to know each other, and they are all gone. You just go for it. My first collaboration, like really the physical collaboration, was with an architect called Daniel Wiedrich. I did the first 3D print with him back in 2009. We started working on crystallization on this first 3D print, and at the beginning I found it quite scary, but then with printing and newer technologies I really realized that I need to collaborate with people in order to be able to create those pieces. So it was, in the beginning it really came out of a need. I think I'm at the point where almost everything that I 3D print I could make by hand, and the other way around. Yeah, technology, strangely enough, is never the inspiration for something. For me, it's really a tool. A sort of an old school vision of people that when they see a design that looks a little bit futuristic, they automatically think it must have been made with technology. And when something looks organic, they feel it must have to do with handwork. But in my 3D prints, I often have really organic shapes, and sometimes I make a really futuristic shape by hand. I remember why I first started working with 3D printing, because I had an idea in my mind. I will 3D print a fully transparent water dress. But at that time it was impossible, because you couldn't 3D print transparent yet. I started trying different things out with hot air guns and metal pliers, and I tried out like possibly 30 or 40 different materials until I found the right one. Finally, I was able to do it for magnetic motion. And it was a really exciting moment for me, because it was in my head all those years and it finally came out. And actually the company that I was printing with, they had no hopes for the dress at all. Like, I made the design and I said I want it transparent, and they said, well, we can't do it. They said, well, we can't print it transparent, maybe another material, but I could not imagine that dress in another material. So I spoke to the technicians and they said it's gonna fail, like the printer won't be able to do it. And I had a good talk and they said, okay, well, we're just gonna try it. I'm sure that we're gonna disappoint you. And then 2 weeks later they called me with the notice that it worked with the printing, and I think that was one of the happiest moments so far. Couture is the reason that I went into fashion. It's a really free space to experiment, to develop new techniques, to collaborate with other disciplines. The shows are the moment where you share the work with others, and it's healthy for me, because when working on a collection I'm like this, like nothing else matters. It's just a pure focus onto my work, and the world is not there. And when I have my show, it's the world again. For me, it is really the place where I can bring my history and future sort of together into one piece, and time doesn't matter. I can spend all the amount of time that I like. It's really a place where you can dream.